Hi, it's Joy and today we're watching The Rings of Power, Season 2, Episode 5, Halls of Stone. A reminder that you can find the unedited version of this reaction on my Patreon, and let's go.
All is shortly to be well.
They're going to do something with the ring? I mean, these rings were crafted with Sauron right there and Celebrimbor on a bit of a ego trip. So, is there something wrong with these ones? More so than with the elven ones? Or is it just doing what it's supposed to do and it's going to help them? You would think the king had lost his mind.
Don't, Father, no!
The ring helped. Hope.
Narvi.
I find it difficult to stay festive when those most affected by Mordor's rise are still suffering.
Sure, I believe you.
Rings. This is a night for dwarves. Come, we shall speak of men tomorrow.
He's like, people keep touching me.
I would prefer to speak of them now.
Use your almighty
Much of the misery of men is of their own making.
Anatar or whatever, like, shouldn't you be bowing at his feet?
And I have been.
I fear Numenor more than any land in Middle-earth.
Oh, Sauron? Is that like a moment of truth? That like Sauron fears Numenor, that if Numenor is at its peak, like with someone good in charge, it could threaten him?
I shall make the 9 myself.
You've shown him how. He had forging experience, and then you showed him how. I also said, like, Celebrimbor, like, last week. I mean, it wasn't last week. It was probably, maybe it could have been a whole week in the show. Was all like, oh my god, Anatar, you are sent from the Holy Valar. Brain fog and names. Like, I worship you, whatever you say. And I was like, actually, humans suck, so I'm not going to do what you want. And I'm glad he's not doing what he wants, because the closer Sauron gets to his plan, the worse it is. Especially as, like, with the elves, they needed the rings to fix a specific problem. The dwarves needed the rings to fix a specific problem. The humans needed the rings for quite a vague reason, like, to stop the suffering of Mordor, but how will the rings achieve that, especially if you give them to people all over the place?
Is that not high enough?
The eagle showed up for Miriel. I believe that's the name. I'm so sorry if it isn't. Brain fog, CFS, etc. Like, and then when he stepped forward, the eagle was like, ugh, gross, and left. People.
Oh, my love is upon us, Father. Let us take it. Let us build the Numenor you have always seen in your mind's eye.
Your father to scheme for power, and now, like most men, when they get the power, they're like, well, now what?
Your mother prophesied that you would come to ill ends.
Thanks for telling me that.
My mother.
The task that I'm about to place upon you. And I will tell you, fail to do so, and I shall have to find other places to make use of you.
Why were you ever that loyal to your father? He's clearly a power scheming bitch. He would use you for whatever purposes he has.
Anyone deemed loyal to the Queen Regent has been stripped of rank.
Absolute dictator bullshit.
Lord Belsagar wanted the lot of you charged with treason.
And yet overthrowing a queen has earned you a promotion.
Mm-hmm.
Dare you? I mock that which is absurd. Ar-Pharazôn is your king.
I mean, he's not dead because of the stone. He's dead because the leaves fell off the tree. Those are different things. Like, your sacred tree, you can say he's dead because she trusted a tree more than her own instincts. That's dangerous. But get it right, woman. And just stripping them all of their ranks so they don't even have... Like, are you giving them jobs, benefits, a few months' pay till they can get back on their feet?
I'm not.
You'll always be my captain.
Captain.
Thank you, Captain. The Valar protects you.
That's enough.
Thank you,
Thank you, Captain.
You can't. I mean, I don't know. I was gonna say freedom of speech. I don't know if they actually have freedom of speech in Numenor, but they're literally just choosing to call him captain. It could be a cool nickname. You don't get to say what it means.
That's enough. Thank you, Captain.
Like maybe you people should. And I'm looking straight at Earin. Look at the fact that the people that actually went with Muriel fought for their lives, watched their brothers and sisters die, are still loyal to her. Yet you, who sat here going, oh, I don't think this is a good idea. Oh, look, I was right, it wasn't a good idea. Are not loyal to her because you were never loyal to her. This is a dictatorship, and Numenor is so isolated that if you actually do disagree with the ruler, you can't leave. You can't get anywhere.
You would do that for me.
For one,
You're one of my oldest friends.
I think you've made it clear enough who your friends are.
You're betraying everything your brother stood for. Not that he was particularly good at his seamanship stuff. Isn't using such things evil blasphemy? Elf-loving?
I pray your father keeps his path true.
These rings are definitely, even without Sauron, they are dangerous and they are something to wield with caution. But I don't necessarily think that alone would be a reason to not use them when they can do so much help.
For every coin spent, another goes to the crown. Ring tribute, he calls
Oof. The power's going to his head.
Sir, have it. No, I don't.
Oh, is she being, like, led somewhere by mystical mountain forces? Is the mountain not happy with the ring?
Each of your realms may share in this bounty. But it comes with a price.
It's already wielding them with, like, power and power over other people, over other dwarves, instead of it being a thing to unify them.
Can we set these restrictions?
Well, you did so. Decades ago.
Then strike them.
But sire,
You set them for good reason.
Or I'll think, what have you done with it?
it's there, sire. You took it off. You said your hand was feeling heavy.
So definitely, like, it's interesting because obviously I don't know what the reality is with these rings. I haven't read any of the original source material. I've seen the movies one time. I enjoyed them, but I'm not an expert on it by all means. But as much as, like, Galadriel... Oh my god, the king's name is almost there with my head. Brain fog name problems. Like, the elves are drawn to their rings. They feel things through the rings. But there seems to be a more sinister presence with the dwarven rings. And is that because Sauron was right there while they were being forged? He was able to, like, do something to them or influence them somehow? Or is it just the nature of the more of these rings that are created, the worse it will get, until ultimately we get to the One Ring, which obviously causes a lot of shenanigans, to put it lightly. But the way he was, where is it? Did you take it from me? Felt very reminiscent of, like, the ring rather than the elven rings. Which could mean at least that the elves are safe with theirs?
Disa heard it herself. A nameless evil. Ancient and powerful.
Oh,
You
yes.
mustn't dig.
The thingy-majig we got a glimpse of last season, right?
Delmaster, you have your
In
order.
this system, he has to obey the king. It's going to be the downfall of Khazad-dûm.
Disa is mistaken. There is no danger.
So these rings definitely seem sinister.
Narnia was attempting to resize it. Where is she?
Look out!
What force has been unleashed?
Stop. Breathe.
And its skin was made of flames. It came toward me. breathing, reeking of death.
Was it the thing under the dwarven mines? Is it Sauron?
I saw its eye. Fortify the alloy by adding more mithril.
No. If you'd wanted to do that, you should have. You.
He knew he'd find a way to make Celebrimbor tell him what he needed to
Save
do.
us immeasurable hours of toil.
My lord Celebrimbor,
He was interrupted.
forgive me, my lord, but Durin something about the rings.
I will see what he wants.
No.
Must be killing Sauron. I mean, he's brilliant at the master manipulator game, but he wants to just get out of my way, you idiots. Do what I want you to do right now, or else. And instead, he has to play this up a lot of gifts.
How do you mean changed?
Then maybe the fault's in the ring maker.
Sauron. I mean, Anatar.
What do you really know about this Anatar?
Mm-hmm.
Until I had helped him to heal.
Oof.
You speak of Lord Celebrimbor.
Oof.
Yes.
Celebrimbor told them this person was sent by the gods.
Exacted from him in
The Valar.
For a moment, you seemed her perfect likeness.
His likeness.
Why, Lady Galadriel's, of course.
Very weird, Sauron. Like, having a crush on Galadriel makes perfect sense, but... I don't remember if I finished articulating this thought, but on Numenor, if you don't feel safe or if you disagree with how the things are being run, you can't just choose to cross the border and go and try somewhere else. You're like trapped on the island.
This shrine is condemned by order of the king.
Jesus Christ.
Leave willingly or leave by force. The king sends his apologies.
I mean, the king is boiling for an uprising with this behaviour. Like, he's got a lot of young, fit people who used to work on the ships, now without jobs and with grievances against him beyond the grievances they already had. Now he's, like, being religiously disrespectful. And yes, a lot of people on Numenor don't seem to follow the old ways. They don't care. But, like, he's ensuring there's going to be strife and civil war-esque vibes if there isn't a whole civil war, instead of trying to be like, I am a glorious king to save you all and to be here for you all. He's just I mean, he's very right-wing-esque with his, like, trying to help out, like, I mean, probably traditional monarchy-esque, to be fair, like, trying to help out those who benefit, who support him, those who help him, and crushing everybody else. But it's inevitably going to make his reign that bit more turbulent. And this little guy, his little son, who, like, his father has never shown him respect, has never shown him any kind of love or anything. And, like, yesterday, this morning, whenever it was like, oh yeah, your mother once foresaw that you were gonna have a terrible end. I'll tell you about it if you do what I say, otherwise I'll make sure it happens. Like, what is he doing being all, my father? He's like Draco Malfoy, but worse, and I'm sorry to use the turf-inspired thing, my brain just thought of the reference, said it, and then I'm like, fuck the turf, I'm so sorry.
How does it feel to have a daughter who's ashamed of you?
How does it feel to have never had your father's respect in the first place? Thank you. He was baiting you to hit him so he could punish you for it.
Give him the relic.
They're gonna smash it, aren't they?
I don't know if you're aware, but I've been promoted to...
That's what he wanted from you. He can arrest you now.
The shrine.
What a spineless little shit. Like, hold him and then I'll hit him back, instead of just hitting him back. Like, and it just gets me that, like, this guy's father despises him and makes it clear that he doesn't care about him and thinks he's nothing because his father only cares about himself. And yet he's still strutting around like he's, you know, he's the bee's knees.
May the Valar forgive me.
For what?
This was inevitable. Something like this was inevitable. Oh no, don't hurt him. Please steal his sword and stab him with it at this point. Like, I don't advocate for murder, but this is another way to ensure civil war. Don't do it. Like, I know I was just like running through with the sword, but I don't actually mean it, because it would not help anybody. It would just make things 1,000 times worse. I'm really worried he's gonna put the sword down, and Kemen, little bitch, is gonna stand up, grab the sword, and like run him through with it or something, because he's a little coward. And like, I don't mean coward as in like a little afraid to fight, because then that would be me. I mean like spineless toad.
Our captain.
Yep, that's exactly what I knew was going to happen. The spineless little toad, and that is such an offensive thing to say to spineless little toads, because they deserve better than this comparison. And like, for Elendil, it's like watching his son die all over again, because that was like his last piece of his son. I mean, beyond just being sad that the boy himself was dying. At this point, there needs to be civil war to stop these bitches. You do realise that, like, all of...
Inform the jailer. He was the one who started the uprising.
But, like, I know obviously these guys don't care. They're being paid. They're soldiers. They're getting their paycheck. They're clocking in. They probably quite enjoy. A lot of them will be, you know, ACAB. They'll enjoy violence and they'll enjoy... I'm using a lot of modern references and I'm really sorry. My brain is just not functioning properly today. Like, they probably enjoy violence, a lot of them. But, like, they all just watched you lose a fight, whimper and beg for your life, which, again, I don't personally, like, yeah, if someone had a sword at my throat, I would be terrified. So I'm not, like, personally shaming him, but the kind of culture they live in would shame him for that. And then stabbed him in the back. They have zero respect for you, other than the fact that you control the purse strings.
Just be mindful someone is not manipulating.
Says the manipulating bitch.
Whether or none. Alter the dwarven rings, yes or no?
I mean, I wonder, could he have done such a thing? Did anybody that I also trust tell me not to treat with him ever? And did I just ignore that and just think, he's a cool dude? I know that he was like bamboozled with the epic, like, I am the Lord of the Rings, etc. It was very cool, I understand. But it's too late to be all, oops, now. So the elven rings are okay, because he wasn't there to fuck with them, right?
No.
He can't resist the little evil smirky smirk.
We did.
What are you talking about? What deceit could you possibly...
The letter.
Oh, this manipulative bitch.
No, that was...
You lied.
Putting all the doubts and all the shame right back on him.
Your High King can... We plunge straight on.
I'm sorry, but if your deceit ruined the Seven, why would you plunge straight on? Because there's even more deceit if you continue. Like, that doesn't make any sense, Sauron, for a masterful manipulator. Yes, you've thrown all the guilt and uncertainty right back on Celebrimbor, so now he's thinking, as much as he's denying it, he's looking at himself, he's thinking, am I to blame? And you did it so cleverly by saying we lied, we deceived, when he, Celebrimbor, was the one who sent the letter and wrote it and, like, technically deceived the king. So that then it feels like he's trying to share the burden with me when it's all my fault to Celebrimbor. But if we make the 9, when you've just admitted the 7 got fucked up, what is the point? Because they're just going to get fucked up too. And obviously we know Sauron intends to do something to them. But, like, from a manipulation standpoint, what is the point?
To partner with the elves has saved our kingdom. That is why now,
The best intentions do not always work out.
by my side,
Manipulating him, trying to win him over. I mean, does it mean anything when you take it away so easily? That at his side you might be able to temper some of the madness.
Swear to me that you will never wear one of those rings.
I swear it.
You better not break that promise, because you know there is something wrong with these rings. There is proof in your father's abrupt change of behavior.
Uncanny. Oh, did hubris and sloth come together to dull your attention?
I mean, I think hubris came to you.
We must atone for our mistakes. Any of you who offer so much as a hair's breadth less than his utmost effort is a smith of a region no longer.
Jesus, this man has now become like the worst version of himself.
Have I made myself plain?
Sauron is a master manipulator.
It starts now.
Well, I mean, I know that this is evident all the time.
My friends,
Hmm.
do not be discouraged. Unreasonable.
He's playing good cop.
Intemperate or...
You fucked up.
The orcs are not in Mordor. A legion of them are headed for Eregion. Galadriel was right. You must send the army to Eregion this moment.
That will not be possible.
Because you've already
I
dispatched
have
them.
reason to believe that Sauron is the architect of all this.
Ooh.
Eregion is the very jewel.
Did he see through the letter?
To fall, it would be a mortal blow.
Our armies cannot defeat both Adar and Sauron. Not alone.
You're not wrong. I mean, yeah, she's been kept alive for a reason. I'm not entirely sure what that reason is. I assume to get information. That is Galadriel. He's already open to the allyship. Are we going to end up allying with Adar the Orcs? That is insanity. But also right now against Sauron, possibly necessary. Look at that self-satisfied little bitch. I love this show, and it is one of those many pitfalls, and I call this a pitfall, but it's actually not a pitfall. I'll get to my point, and then I hope it will make sense. Of shows like this, they have so many characters in so many different places with these big, deep, intricate plot lines that need time to delve into. And like, I wouldn't want these episodes to be cut any differently so you spent less time on each plotline, because it wouldn't be as satisfying in each plotline. But you know, in this episode we saw like a glimpse of Galadriel, a glimpse of Elrond. We didn't see anything of what was happening with Isildur and that plotline. We didn't see anything what happened with Noriel, the stranger. And like, there's all these plotlines everywhere, and like, we haven't seen Numenor until this episode for a little while. That one of the pitfalls, and it's not actually a pitfall because we get to spend this beautiful, glorious time with these characters and these plotlines, is that you go weeks without getting information on one plotline, and you finally get one plotline back, and you're like, yes, okay, great. And then the next week it'll be gone, and it's just like, I need it all. I need it all right now. I very much envy anyone who is binging this show. Okay, so I'm despairing of Celebrimbor quite a lot. With a slight asterisk of, I understand that like he is being manipulated by Sauron, so it's not like he's just deciding these things by himself. He very quickly began to doubt the process, and his prejudices against men, against humans, outweighed his reverence for Anatar, the Lord of the Gift sent by the Valar or whatever. Like, his prejudices were so strong that he was like, I can't do that, sorry. Yes, I looked at you with wonder and I did everything you said, but now stretched too far. And knowing that, seeing that he didn't have him, Sauron has masterfully worked his way so that now the workers in the forge are loyal to him, not Celebrimbor. At a glance of his, they would turn against Celebrimbor in an instant. They would choose Anatar over him. They fully believe in him, fully worship him. He has managed to completely sever any loyalty that used to be there, and we know there used to be a lot of loyalty there. He also managed to make Celebrimbor doubt himself rather than Sauron. He managed to make it so that he views himself as the fault of it all, and the only solution now is to do exactly what Sauron wants. So all of these shenanigans lead me to believe, with some confidence, that the Elven Rings, the 3, are okay. They're still, you know, incredibly powerful tools. In the wrong hands would be devastating, but that's always been the case. Because, yes, Sauron was there during their conception, the idea of them, the discussions about them, but he wasn't there when they were made, and it seems like that is a vital part of the process. And he was there when the 7 were made, So that's why they are corrupt and bad. And I don't know whether they just kind of turn people against each other, like bring out the worst in the person that wears them or something like that, whether they make them covet more and more wealth and power, or whether they're directly controlled somehow by Sauron and working through his aims. Like maybe they want to release the creature that's in the mountain. I don't know. So it's just watching this all happen. I feel more confident in the Elven 3 now. Celebrimbor, I have lost all faith in, because I think he's lost faith in himself for one thing, and he has at no point thought to, I mean, he doubted Anatol for like 2 seconds before it was masterfully shoved in his face. And that's what I love so much about Sauron, is he is so, I mean, when I say I love it, as a character, as an individual, despise the creature, he's terrifying, I hate him, but like the way he was like, you best be careful someone isn't manipulating you. Twirl my evil moustache, I am manipulating you. Like, it was just so well done, and it just made you go, oh. And like, I know the internet has been like obsessed with him and in love with him and fancying him, and I'm like, I'm sorry, he's just too manipulative and evil. He's a red flag. I can't get behind the red flag. Is he very beautiful? Yes. Is he a red flag? Yes. Which I also don't think most people would deny. So that was all terrifying. And then his masterful way of like, when the girl, the smith, the elf, saw the other realm, whatever that is, and I assume that now from what she saw was Sauron in that other world, what he looks like, and him being able to masterfully tell her that that was actually Celebrimbor, to kind of completely twist it. This thing that could have, one of the things he is most masterful at is things that should be his vulnerabilities. They should be the time when he is exposed. He is able to swiftly twist and manipulate to his own aims. And how are we going to defeat this man? One way, I assume, is going to be by allying with the orcs, which is just mind-blowing. Like, obviously I know that we've seen that like the orcs aren't purely evil killing machines, but they are still evil killing machines. Like, Adar wants them to have a home, and maybe, you know, it's not completely unjustified to think that like they deserve a home, but at the same time, they're killing everybody they come across. They're enslaving people left, right, and center. It's not great. But again, Sauron are probably going to have to work with him. And I wonder if that's almost part of it, because obviously by the time you get to the Lord of the Rings, Mordor still exists. No humans are living there. They haven't managed to undo what was done to the Southlands. But it's kind of like, I guess, a no-go zone for most normal people. So I wonder if there's almost like a deal that's struck somehow. But then I also I think it would be very difficult for elves en masse to want to work with the orcs, to be like, hey, let's go fight orcs, and similarly for the orcs to do the same. It will be very tricky, but Adar definitely sees the big picture and is aware of the big picture. What is most interesting in a way is that I was sort of assuming Galadriel would be the one to potentially broach the alliance, that she would be the one to be like, okay, I can use this. Like, if they go and attack the elves, all's lost, but if we make sure they specifically attack Sauron, we can use this. The fact that Adar is immediately trusting her in that is interesting to me, because from what Halbrand, as he believes, said, Galadriel had made a deal with Sauron. It wasn't just the elves have made a deal, it was Lady Galadriel and the elves have made a deal with Sauron. So the fact that he immediately is like, oh no, I'm going to work with her, we could be allies. I guess he's using his mind and his brains and kind of interpreting, like, when he last met her, she was, where is Sauron? Tell me where Sauron is. I hate Sauron. But it's interesting to see how this develops and where this goes from here. Then we have the dwarves. Old Durin is losing his mind. Reminds me a little bit of Gold Sickness. That it shows you yet again, as does a lot of what's happening in Numenor, the pitfalls of a monarchy and any system where one individual holds that much power over everybody else. Because he put those rules about not going too deep in the mine in place for a reason, and now he's like, oh, forget that, we'll do it. And even though everyone, like his advisor dude, I don't know his name, and his younger Durin were like, that is not a good idea, at the end of the day, the king says so, the king gets to do it. So it is terrifying. I do have a feeling younger Durin might break the promise he made to never wear the ring, but I honestly don't know. I don't fully know what happens to all of the different rings. I know Galadriel still has hers when we get to the movie. Again, like, obviously the books, not the movie, but you know, like, I've only seen the movies. But it's not looking good because the dwarves are digging deeper and deeper, and there's the scary, loud creature thing down there that I think I've heard called a Balrog, but I don't actually know what that means. And if it's a spoiler, I'm really sorry because I don't even understand what it is, but like, it doesn't sound good. And we did, in the recap, I remember they very clearly showed that we did see a glimpse of something down there. Unleashing that would not be good. And that makes me wonder how many, like, ancestral homes have the dwarves lost. Because this isn't, as much as this is Durin, and, like, Thorin and co were, like, Durin's sons, like, his lineage, right? But this isn't the home they were trying to get back to? Or is it? Am I just completely misremembering? Like, I thought it had a different name. I can't think what it is now, but I thought that the home they were trying to go back and reclaim, that was a totally separate thing. So I'm guessing they lose this mountain and end up going and finding a different mountain that they live in for a few generations until they lose that. And then one day the hobbits will go on a... not the hobbits. The dwarves will go with Bilbo on their little quest. Just a little quest. Just a little, you know what I mean. And solve things. But things are not looking great. The king losing his mind and having absolute power. Terrifying. Then on Numenor, we have another power-hungry man who, now that he has got power, is using it to turn around and crush all of his enemies, and that is terrifying. But it is also short-sighted and foolish, because it is going to lead to some kind of civil war or uprising, general discontent. Now, I suppose the new king's goal is he will crush those people before they have a chance to rise up against him, but he's ensuring they will. Whereas if they just disagree with his policies, but otherwise nothing really changed on the island, people are probably not going... It's going to be harder to get people en masse to rise against you. Whereas when you're desecrating their shrines, stabbing people in the back, stripping their family members of their hard-earned jobs and positions, arresting respected admirals or captains, like things like that, you're going to be making people a little bit more upset with you. Whereas if you just were the new king and you just said, oh, it's a peaceful realm, but we don't do stuff the elven way anymore, and then just lived your life in your newfound power, it would be much harder to get the en masse resistance of the people who would think, well, my everyday life has not changed, I'm okay. Muriel definitely was like, please just try and, keep things peaceful, and everything went to hell. But admittedly, I don't think Elendil stood a chance, because she wanted him to go back to his ship and using his position of authority to help kind of keeping things stable, to keep Numenor safe. And he immediately lost that position of authority, and the way the world is down there, the way Numenor is, for someone like Elendil, unless he were to just go and sit in a cave and never come out again, he is viewed as too much of a threat. He is too clearly one of the Queen's staunchest allies. They're going to strike against him. And my least, I actually think I almost possibly dislike Kemen, or whatever his name was, more than Sauron. At least Sauron, has his own mind. Kemen is his dad's little, yes sir, no sir. And his dad shows him zero love and respect to earn that. And yet he walks around like he's the bee's knees, the god's gift to Middle-earth. And then he just... he's technically on Numenor, isn't he? He's in the Middle-earth continent, but you know what I mean. And then he just, stabs people in the back, and then is all like... I just... Ugh. I think part of what makes him so terrifying is how many men exist, women, just like him in the real world, who would do similar things in a modern perspective. And obviously it's also terrifying because there are men who are masterful manipulators and seem so charming and good and get everybody on their side, and secretly they're evil, like Sauron. That is also terrifying. But then Sauron also has the mystical magic-y part of things, which is less realistic, whereas Kemen is just yeah, ugh. I feel very badly, obviously, for Elendil. I feel bad for the guy who died, because he was just such a good, wonderful person, and the last of Isildur's friends. And to Elendil, his loyalty meant so much to him, and I think it also was like having a piece of his son still with him, because it was one of his son's closest friends. And to then see him die, it would remind him endlessly of how his own son died. And And not to mention that he died protecting Elendil. You know, he stepped in when the little bitch was going to punch Elendil. He stepped in that moment. He told him, don't kill the boy, like, put the sword down, and when he put the sword down, he died because of it. Like, it's not Elendil's fault, it's Kemen's fault, and every single person, including Arianwen, the daughter, for giving this, like, she's still infatuated with this spineless little toad, and that is so offensive to spineless little toads, but I don't know what else to call him. She's really disappointing me this season, but like when I say she's disappointing me, it feels like a natural progression of her arc from when we saw her in the previous season. Not that she was in it a whole load. And I know she's grieving her son. That would be a twist. I know she's grieving her brother, but by then doing everything your brother would not want you to do is a very strange way to grieve somebody. And it's gained her everything she wanted. Power, respect, which maybe she didn't even know she wanted, but now she has. I just hope, as things get worse on Numenor, she will realize her mistakes and do better in the future. But we will see. I do wonder if Isildur were to get his hands on a ship, and obviously he would then also need a crew, but would he be able to sail to Numenor? Would he know the way to be able to, like, go home himself? Or is he purely dependent? I mean, obviously then getting a ship and a crew is not easy. I'm not saying it would be, like, really simple, especially in the state of the world where he is, but, like, could he go home by himself? Or will Numenor just never come back to Middle-earth and then they'll never know he's alive? We will see. The interesting part, one of the most interesting parts of this episode was the moment when Sauron was like, oh, Numenor, they are so very, they're very dangerous. Like, I don't trust them. Now, obviously, he needs to try and sow people to not trust Numenor. So if Numenor does turn up, they'll be like, oh, bad Numenor. But was that just him being a bit manipulative? Just him trying to, like, we have a common enemy, so we've got to work together? Or is he actually afraid of Numenor? That Numenor have the ability to help defeat him somehow? Because that would be very, very interesting. We need all the tools we can get against this evil man, because how the hell otherwise are we going to do it? Another brilliant episode. I'm reminder that you can find the unedited version of this reaction on my Patreon. And thank you so much for watching.